So recently, I've been playing a bit of Aimlab on Steam, getting achievements for it as I am a completionist, and while I pretty much am playing just for that purpose, I do think it can have some carryover to other FPS games that we play, which of course is the whole purpose of this game existing. It's free to play, and the system requirements don't seem like you need a dream build of a PC to run it. The game has tons of different categories of aim exercises with different purposes, respectfully. And so, if you just want to train your aim, or reaction time, or audio listening skills, or so much more, it's all there in Aimlab. And the great thing about Aimlab 2 is that after you complete a task, you'll get detailed analytics about how you're doing, what your strengths and weaknesses are, and how much or how less you've improved from the time that you last played the mode. For example, Aimlab has indicated to me that I've gotten an imbalance in my aim. I actually perform worse when there's targets on the left side of my screen, which I guess makes sense as I am right-handed, but I can at least use that information to try to improve my aim. For the context of Phantom Forces, however, I've picked out a handful of Aimlab modes that I think have the best carryover to what we're doing in Phantom Forces. So, I have put together all the tasks I picked out into a playlist, which is going to be uploaded to the Steam Workshop. I'll of course have that linked in the description, although I guess you could find it by going to my Steam profile as well. I probably won't accept your friend request, but you can definitely follow me on Steam. I post guides for other games, and so if you're into that kind of thing, hey, I'm here. The playlist only has 6 modes in it. All are 1 minute each. So this is going to take you 6 minutes roughly, a little bit more than that. So you could treat this kind of like a warm-up for getting into the Phantom Forces groove aim-wise. So starting off with one of the modes, the first one, Detection. This game mode is simply a reaction time event, and you just have to click when you see the blue orb come onto the screen. I feel like reaction time is really quite important for an FPS game, so no amount of training your reaction time can hurt, and this one is just dedicated solely to that. Of course, other modes will incorporate some amount of necessary reaction time to succeed, but this is just simple, straightforward. After that, I have included Strafe Shot, and this one requires you to hit moving orbs as they strafe across your screen. And I feel like this is just helpful for getting you to practice hitting moving targets, which I think is something that some people definitely struggle with. And going back to the anecdote I mentioned about being worse on the left side of my screen, I know that for hitting moving targets, depending on what eye dominance you have, and I think if you're right or left-handed, the way that you track moving targets can be affected by that. So maybe it's best to practice some of that. And you'll of course encounter people running across your screen in Phantom Forces like this, so this one I think has some carryover, and it does get kinda tricky when the orbs are getting to be the tiniest little ones. Next up, I threw in Horde Shot, and this one has you facing up against a bunch of computer-controlled bots. They won't attack you, and you just need to shoot them. What I like about this though is that they move dynamically, they'll peek you, they'll hide from you, and honestly they play about as aggressively as Phantom Forces players do. And the mode will also reward you for headshots. You'd either need 3 body shots, which is inefficient, or just 1 headshot to remove the enemy bot. So I think this is good practice for that on targets that are maybe going to be moving unpredictably, closer or further away from you, and so I think it's just good to get that little bit of practice in with moving bots. But it is nice to raise the stakes a little bit and, add in some risk, a little sprinkle of risk. So that's why afterwards I've included Wall Peek on Expert mode. You can't die, of course, but the computer-controlled bots will shoot projectiles at you, and so on top of needing to shoot them, you have to avoid those projectiles. You gotta move while they're moving, and once again with this one, headshots are the way to go. I find that this kind of wall peeking is something that I do in Phantom Forces quite often, so I feel like practicing with that and forcing yourself to come up against enemies in what could be kind of unpredictable locations is good. Having that first bullet accuracy can really be helpful. After that, I threw in another one with bots, the last one with bots, and for this it's Ninja Shot. Blink Shot is also really, really similar and could work in conjunction. I chose this because the way the bots move, to me at least, somewhat mimics the way that Phantom Forces players will move, sometimes sporadically or unpredictably, especially with like super jumping and sliding and just a lot of higher level players tend to go like really hardcore with the movement, and so this to me just seemed to kind of embody some aspects of that. So you're getting to hit a moving target, which is kind of moving kind of crazily, which I think will have some carryover. And then lastly, I did put a sniper one into here, and I suppose you could see this as maybe being optional because not everyone's into sniping, so it might not be very meaningful if you don't wish to improve it. But I would suggest that, if you're not a sniper and you don't want to improve sniping, just do this with the pistol or like an AK or something, and so that it kind of simulates having to shoot enemies that are at further range and are moving, which I know is something you'll encounter in Phantom Forces depending on the map you're on. So getting that experience with enemies that are actually quite further away, I think, is beneficial. It is worth noting, though, that this isn't like Phantom Forces sniping, where we of course have to deal with bullet drop on most of the sniper rifles, so it doesn't simulate that. And that also leads me to my last point of suggesting that Aimlab is used as kind of like a supplement for you in Phantom Forces. There's so much more to Phantom Forces, like audio, wall bangs, bullet drop, etc., that Phantom Forces players need to work with, and Aimlab can help with a lot of general play and aim, but you still need to put the work in inside of the game. So use Aimlab as a base tool, maybe warm up with it, improve your raw aim, and then turn to Phantom Forces and use the other aspects of the game to learn to deal with recoil and bullet drop and actual players where they can actually kill you in the game and just things like that, because there's so much more than just pure aim in the game. And then finally, I don't think that Aimlab is like a kingmaker, and I don't think that being bad in Aimlab means you're going to be bad at Phantom Forces. Like I mentioned, there's so much to it. So if you do poorly in Aimlab, don't let it get you down. I'm not the greatest at Aimlab, and I regularly do kind of poorly than I think that I should be, but I know that in Phantom Forces, I can still hold my own. And I think that's what I would like to reinforce again, is that Aimlab is a supplement to your playing. It's not a necessary thing to do, but I feel like if you're someone who is a new player, you're new to FPS games, you just want to improve your aim in general, or maybe for competitive players especially, doing something like putting in the work to fine-tune and improve your aim and understand where your weaknesses are is a beneficial thing to do. So that's just my take on things. Use this playlist as a jumping off point. Of course, you can change it up, you can add to it, you can browse what Aimlab has to offer, you can change up the weapons, you can do so much in Aimlab to kind of customize your play experience. And I'm hoping in the future that with the Steam Workshop, I'm hoping that maybe I can import the Phantom Forces player models to use in place of the bots, and maybe try and import a small section of a map to use. The game is still in early development, so it doesn't have that kind of feature yet, but maybe that's something to look for in the future. So that's all I've got for you today.